Hello and welcome to Defense India podcast. And before we start this video, please do like, share and subscribe to the channel.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Defense India podcast, the podcast where we discuss matters pertaining to India's internal security. And joining me on the podcast is Vicky Najapa. Vicky, welcome to the podcast once again.
Thanks, Akash. Thank you so much.
So, Vicky, we have been talking about a lot of different things over the years, and of course, Kashmir is one issue that has been extensively discussed on the podcast. But another interesting thing has happened, within this past week, that around 6 people have been caught, in drug smuggling across the border, and out of them 5 were cops and 1 was a school teacher. So this raises a lot of alarm in terms of how the government officials themselves are somewhat embroiled in drug trafficking. So first of all, I just want to get your views about this whole story that has happened in Jammu and Kashmir, that they have caught around 5 police officials, security officials, and interestingly, most of them were posted along the border.
Yeah, that's true. See, Akash, while it is really very shocking that people from within the establishment are backing such elements. The other thing which I want to bring to your notice is that, or to everyone's notice, is that this is not something new. This is which has happened. There has been a crackdown, a similar crackdown, a couple of years back, but that was more to do with people within the system, tipping off terror groups, their handlers, about movement of forces, movement of the police, and what the government is planning. And they have been working in various capacities. Some as prison staff, some as school teachers in government schools, some within the government offices. All these things. It has happened in the past also. Now, with this, sudden rise in attacks, and looking at the precision with which, the terrorists are targeting the Indian establishment, and also, causing a lot of mayhem. It was very important to kind of pin down and nail the source of where the information is going, because even they are working on intelligence, and the last time, when I was writing, I'd written that that these terrorists have not been using, equipment like, GPS, and, the use of mobile is very limited, so that, the tracking is less. And despite all this, they are so familiar with the location. So there has been, man-to-man contact, and who better within the establishment, to go and give them this kind of information, so that they're able to move around freely and infiltrate and also carry out such attacks.
Absolutely, Vicky, and of course, as we discussed earlier, also that intelligence agencies, they definitely play a very important role in terms of curbing these kind of activities along the border. But secondly, very alarming is that most of these guys who are caught are patrolled or are posted very near to the border or in the bordering areas. So, what measures do you think, after such kind of revelations are made, the establishment should do in order to control these kind of activities? Because to be very honest, the money that is earned through these activities is definitely is pushed into terrorism and cross-border activities and all those kind of things. So what measures do you think the authorities should take?
Yeah, see, one thing is that if you see, again, I wouldn't say this is a new phenomenon. There are many, within the establishment who are guarding the borders also, who have been found to be involved in, incidents such as this. We have seen it extensively happening on the Indo-Bangladesh border, where, infiltrations were at such a peak, And a lot of times, in the past when it came to investigations in Jammu and Kashmir, if you see that, the free trade was being, misused by the elements from Pakistan, and a lot of, supply and material that had to come in as part of, the trade, was being laced with drugs or, narcotics and arms and ammunitions and things like that. So clearly, many have, in fact, turned a blind eye to this. Uh, I would not, say with a lot of guarantee that, some, it is always, ideological in nature what they do. It is also done in view of, money also, which has been found in many, many such cases.
Right.
Now, when we started off this conversation, we started by saying, there was a similar crackdown a couple of years back. But, such a process needs to be continued because, it is, currently the union territory, this has been a problem not only for, the past 4 to 5 or 10 years. It has been, over 20 years plus. And in the meantime, courtesy the politics, courtesy the international interference, and the kind of push that Pakistan has been making, they have, and the real rise of the separatist movement, they have really managed to put in a lot of their molds within the system. So it's a cleanup act which is going to take at least 4 to 5 years. I mean, before you get a new system in place there, and make sure that there are fresh faces within the establishment who have absolutely no contact with such elements, so that the information which they would desire to get is entirely blocked out, and of course more checks on the border, very, very important, because that is where it's coming in. When it was tightened, if you remember, they had used drones to drop in drugs, arms, and ammunitions. And now, since that has come down a lot, they've gone back to the age-old ways, of trying and bribing some people there, guarding the border, and then, moving in their stuff there with the help of touts, and, with many within the establishment also looking away. So it has to be a continued process, Akash. It's not like, you catch 56 today or 60 tomorrow, and then the menace ends, because, there are more than there are over 1,000 such people who exist within the system who are still very, very counterproductive to the security of Jammu and Kashmir.
Exactly, Vicky. And you said that there are a lot, many numbers. To be very honest, when we put around, I think the Baramulla police, they conducted a anti-drug drive and, tried to nab the peddlers, and around, I think over 600 people they caught in just that area. So that shows the severity of drug use also in the common public over there. That the drug has been freely available to the youth to corrupt them, and of course, I think that is one step towards promoting them towards terrorism, handing them over a gun, and turning them against India.
Yeah, that's very true. See, the numbers are really very alarming, very alarming, and they said that that it needs to be a continued process. If you see that this whole organization called as the Resistance Front, or which is just a a shadow of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, or is the Lashkar-e-Taiba itself. Initially, they were getting these very locally made weapons with much ease, with which they went around threatening the public. And recently, we had seen that the former top cop of Jammu Kashmir himself had spoken about the Pakistan army also being involved in such operations, so that you can just imagine the scale up to which they are operating out there. He says a special unit has been created only for this operation, and the coming months are going to be extremely crucial. That is one. While the attacks may have come down, I mean, it's not it wouldn't be a wise idea to just take your eyes off Jammu Kashmir right now, and make sure that the external threat is always going to be there. It's not like Pakistan is going to turn into, I mean, going to have a heart of gold all of a sudden and say that we don't want to have anything to do with Jammu Kashmir. But the thing is, it is very important to keep looking at the internal rot within the system there. And once you manage to clear that out, or I would say at least, I wouldn't say 100% you can do that, but at least 70% or 60% if you manage to clear that out, then I think over a period of time the problem will get solved.
Exactly, Vicky. And of course, as far as the drug problem is concerned, the MOS Home Ministry has said in the Parliament around 66,000 kgs of narcotics have been recovered in the past 3 to 4 years. So that is also one alarming figure: 66,000 kilograms of narcotics in just Jammu and Kashmir region, which has been brought in. And of course, it is just been caught, not sure about how much of it has been distributed. So that is also one important thing that we should think about as far as the internal security is concerned, because one of the cop that was caught a few years ago had in his possession 91 lakh in cash, which I think he got from selling these drugs and all, and was going to send it back to Pakistan. So this is also a very alarming thing, don't you think?
Yeah, the thing is, this form of terrorism, which we call as narco-terrorism, has always been existent. And if you go back and look there, a syndicate run by Dawood Ibrahim is the one which controls a majority of the narco industry. I mean, still, and it the drugs coming out from Afghanistan, then into Pakistan, and then they're either then it's moved into India. And when we saw what was happening in Punjab, the kind of drugs that were being pumped in, we realized at that time that not all of it was meant to revive terrorism in Punjab or stoke up that Khalistan movement again. A lot of it has gone into Jammu Kashmir by the roads, and security has been really lax because of which it has been getting in there. And narco-terrorism actually, I would say, would top the list in terms of, a money spinner for these terror groups, because it's been going on for a very, very long time. But the ease with which it has been coming in is what I would say is very worrisome. And it just looks like, over the past couple of years, they've really pumped it up. Because if you remember, 3 to 4 years back, there were some reports of, these people not having enough money to operate, and, the lack of funds.
And I think especially after demonetization.
Yes, a lot of their money did get wiped out. That one thing, and even the fake currency market fell to a great deal post demonetization after that. So it was very obvious that they would pump in these the drugs in larger numbers, and I would only see them making more and more efforts for it to go further. And let's not just look only at the landing points in Jammu and Kashmir, Akash. There are other landing points for narcotics. In fact, a couple of years back, they were trying to channelize a route from Pakistan to Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka to India, and then into Jammu Kashmir. Okay, so it's the problem doesn't end there at one border. They're trying to channelize the other route, because there has been a proper route from Sri Lanka for many years, where there's been a lot of exchange in terms of drugs. If you remember that there was a module operating out of the Pakistan embassy in Sri Lanka also.
Correct.
So recent investigations, while everyone thought that it was being done for the revival of the LTT, it further came to light that it was again meant to be pumped into Jammu and Kashmir, because the moment the things are tightened along the India-Pakistan border, they will try and open up that other route, through Sri Lanka, then southern India, and then back into Jammu Kashmir. So that's what I'm saying. The problem of narco-terrorism will not just end only in Jammu Kashmir, but it can open up from the south of India also.
Correct. And of course, I think keeping that in mind, I think high-level army, personnel meeting happened with the other countries also, to the extent till Iran, Afghanistan, and Myanmar, so that there could be a little bit of curb on these kind of activities that are taking place. But still, we have seen that drugs are still pouring in India with a very easy thing. So, do you think somewhere around the line, the system has been corrupted to that extent that we are not able to take this whole system down?
See, the thing is, that is when it comes down to a lot of, cooperation between the two countries. Now, I wouldn't expect, Pakistan to sit and, cooperate with India if we,
And to be very honest, when these kind of when I said about this high-level army, personnel, one-on-one interaction happened, Pakistan was not involved in that.
Yeah, that was very obvious. Akash, the thing is, one thing. I would have been, in fact, surprised if they were, in fact, involved. But the thing is, what? If there is no cooperation out there, and the thing is, there is an establishment which is working on the other side of the border, which is putting in all its resources to make sure that the drugs and arms reach here. So you're fighting a one-sided battle at the end of it. Now, with a country like Sri Lanka, we can sit across the table and talk, and try and close these routes out and things like that. And I would say that they have not been entirely successful, in creating that that channel, because many a time they've tried creating a channel for Naxalites to bring in arms through that same route on along the Sri Lanka, from Sri Lanka to India. They have tried this also. But since the cooperation is good between the two countries, we've been able to stem that problem to a large extent. That is one thing. I wouldn't say 100%, at least say 60 to 65% we managed to do that. So that's what I said, that cooperation between two countries, the involvement of other countries to try and rein in on rogue nations like Pakistan to make sure, and then getting the Taliban more and more. That is the ruling. The other ones who are ruling in Afghanistan, because 99% of the drugs come out of that country. So create a kind of a system where it's blocked out there itself at the source. So these are things which will require time, but they will have to be done.
Exactly, Vicky. And of course, I think these kind of things do take a lot of time because it has been in the process for such a long period of time that it has become like a second habit for some people to get involved in these kind of operations. But hopefully, in coming times, there would be a crackdown, and we will see a little bit of more bigger dent happening in the narco-terrorism. Well, that's all we have today in this episode of Defense India podcast. Thank you, Vicky, once again for joining in, and thank you to all our viewers for watching.
Thank you, Akash. Thank you so much.